Higher.
Ew.
Nearer.
Longer. Faster.
Cyflymach.
Gwrando.
Listen.
Engage. Cysylltu.
Cynrychioli.
Represent.
All there is for me to say at this point is welcome to everyone that's joining us for the next edition of this In Conversation with series from Welsh Athletics. Throughout the weeks, we're trying to catch up with some of the recipients of our 2020 National Awards programme. My name's Chris Moss, Head of Development and Participation at Welsh Athletics, and today I'm delighted to be joined by two of the nicest people you're likely to meet in the world of athletics. Very warm welcome, Chris Pratt of Ogmore Phoenix and Martin Rivers, run for All Neath.
Hi.
Hey guys.
Afternoon, gents.
Afternoon.
Guys, with this series, we're looking at getting into a bit of info, learning a bit around the background, and really the people behind the sport. So just run through a series of questions, just to try and get to know you a little bit more, a little bit about your background, and a little bit about the clubs that you're here to represent, and sort of the journey that you've been through over the last 12 months or so that obviously led to those national awards. So we'll kick off. We'll start with you, Chris. How did you get involved in the sport?
Right. Okay. Well, I'm quite a late comer to the sport. I started running when I turned 40. I broke my thumb playing five-a-side, and so I needed something to keep fit. And I just plodded along for a few years. And in 2013, after I run London Marathon in 2012. And that was the reason for taking up running. And then in 2013, went along to the local park run on their very first one in Porthcawl. And by doing that week on week, I bumped into some people from the running club that I am now chair of, and became a member. And we then had 40 members, and it kind of snowballed from there. I just got into doing crazy number of events and all the rest of it. I got so passionate about it, and the club transformed not only my running but my life, that I felt like I wanted to get involved. And we had a few little skirmishes within the club that led to sort of a change of personnel, and I decided to stand for chair, was elected, and the rest is history. I mean, I never intended for that to happen. And and here I'm sat here, sort of chair of the club, and loving it, and fully involved with the sport. And it's just amazing how it snowballed from never expecting that to happen to completely changing my life for the better.
We're good at that as a sport. We sneak up on you and kind of catch you, and before you know it, you're chair of a club, and
yeah,
there's no getting away. What about yourself, Martin?
Interesting there, though, because I'm a little bit like Chris. Came to the sport very late. Basically, my, as was then 14-year-old daughter said to me, "Dad, I want you at my wedding, and the way you are health-wise, then I don't know if you're going to be there." And that was rather ashamedly, because I'm ex-military and I was in pretty good shape in my 20s. I did nothing for 20-odd years. Then to add to that, the way I got involved in sort of through Welsh Athletics is that one of the guys at our work, we're a small firm, they decided to run a 5K for charity. Sadly, one of our friends had passed away through cancer. Well, I hadn't run, as I said, for 20 years. So I used to go to Porthcawl because that was the only park run locally at the time. Met some of the guys from Run for All. And again, a bit like Chris, you're sucked in, you're absorbed, and here I am sat in the chair. So it's, I think, interesting that sometimes we're just in an amazing community, and it just brings you in, and for the better, for our health and our well-being.
I guess with both of you being chairs of your respective clubs, for many, that's sort of the leader, the figurehead of the club. Have you found it's changed over the past year or so with all the challenges and the changes and the changing environment that we're currently dealing with?
Yeah, it's certainly been an interesting year for us all, I think, isn't it? You know, I think that's easy to say. And there are occasions that certainly in the chair, it can be a bit lonely. And, you know, perhaps through COVID, that's been exacerbated a little bit. But I have to say, I'm fortunate to have an amazing committee, and we work as a great team. And I think that becomes quite supportive. So not only do we obviously work hard to support our members, but as a team, we work together collectively to support one another. And that's how we've managed, I think, certainly through this period. Yeah, we've tried to keep the connection, and we predominantly use social media with the members to try and help them through this period, because, you know, yes, I think as a Run for All, we work as such a team. It's not just down to one person, it's just that contact from almost every member of the committee to keep the members engaged.
Yeah, certainly a massive job, and it's really important, I think, isn't it, to look after not only the members but those that are in and around the committee that are part of that sort of management team, as you try and move the role forward. I guess just so you don't shoulder all of the responsibility yourself. Have you found that, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, much like Martin. I mean, yeah, I think the thing is we're both sat here today because we picked up awards, each of the clubs. And we work in a very similar way, you know, and so that sort of team ethos, you know, the committee around you, that strong structure, the members then responding and helping as well, has been a massive thing. I mean, I've always felt that the position of chair, you are, as you say, this figurehead. You're essentially, you know, the leader. You're seen as that, and you feel that as well. You feel that burden. It's quite a weight bearing down on you. And I think over the last sort of 12 months, that was just, you know, amplified, because then you've also got the concern of what they're all going through, and you know you're going through it yourself. So yourself, you're sort of feeling that pressure, but you're also understand that they are, and you're feeling for them as well, and so you feel this weight slightly increase. But as long as you've got that team around you to actually support you, then, you know, you'll get through it, and you'll come out the other side, you know, and that's what we're doing. And, you know, it just shows the strength of character in the team to battle through it. So definitely.
Chris, that additional burden, that additional pressure, obviously everyone's going through sort of challenging times at the moment. What have you done personally? How are you personally coping with things? I know you've been getting involved in a lot of challenges. You've picked up some injuries along the way, and, you know, it must have been a real roller coaster.
It has been sort of definitely peaks and troughs. I mean, it was straight away we got into it and did loads of things, you know, and I personally took on as many virtual challenges as I could, because events have gone. And so from a running perspective, I needed something to keep me engaged, but also be seen to be engaged in things, because if you're seen to be taking on challenges, then people will say, oh, you know, look, he's doing it. I'll give that a go, you know? And so it's keeping up appearances. I mean, in fact, you know, I've got a whole host of medals hanging behind me there. I've got some more hanging over here. They're all virtual challenges from this year that we got involved in. But I decided mid-year, crazily, we suddenly made the decision to move house at a time when things had eased slightly. We made that big decision. We'd lived in the house for 13 years. We decided to move, and so we decided to do it ourselves and keep as safe as possible, and get a little van and run everything to and from one house to the other. And we downsized, and so it was a massive job in the middle of the year, and that massively impacted my running. It virtually came to a stop. As a result, then when I restarted, I ramped up really quickly, fatal mistake, and picked up an injury, too many miles in October. and all of a sudden I'm there and injured, and then we went into the winter, and I'm not very good in the winter. I'm a summer person, definitely, and so we hit fire break. My head just went down, and I felt the real pressure at that point of not being able to run, trying to stay buoyant. And I liken this to, I've seen one of these memes that goes around where you've got the video of somebody sort of throwing their arms around people, and as they do so to try and ease their burden, you also absorb some of that weight. And if you do that and don't look after yourself, eventually you're carrying all that weight. And it seemed to come at fire break. And I really struggled through that. And so mentally, and of course, I wasn't able to run, so I did some walking. And so, from being real high moments where we'd had people really excelling and doing really well, and and throughout the year gone to this real trough at the bottom and trying to be this person to sort of lift everyone, and struggling really myself to get through it. And thankfully the members came good, and the rest of the committee rallied round, took the pressure off me a bit, members sending me messages all the time. And of course, all those things that you've helped out with along the way come back to you then. That's when people look out for you, and that brought me back to the fore. And I have to say, coming through December, went back up again, and now I'm back on top of the world and fighting fit and chasing through developing the club even further. And so, things like winning Inspirational Club of the Year were a real lift at that time for me personally. So a really hard year, but a really fantastic year. You saw the best in people and the worst in myself, but they brought me back from that, and so very interesting year.
Yeah, it's interesting that we often talk about all the physical benefits of running, but you really notice that the mental side of things and people's mental health and well-being when they're not able to get out, when the nights get darker, or people pick up an injury, it's tough like that. Martin, yourself, I should have warned you. Chris was going to bring his medal collection with him tonight, because I know you haven't brought yours with you, but I'm sure it's a lot bigger and wider than Chris's. But how have you been coping?
Yeah, interesting you say that, but I have to be honest. Chris's is far bigger than mine. My haul isn't so great, but no, seriously, very similar. I think this is why we get on so well. Chris referred to carrying the weight there and sometimes needing to offload, and I referred to some of the committee who've been a real support for me, as funny enough, the other rock in my life, which is my wife. But the bad news for me is carrying weight, because I've put on probably a good stone during this COVID period, because I'm not running as often as I should be, and I do miss it. And leaving aside the physical challenge, it's certainly a great way of downloading mentally, and again, not just from the running the club, but also from the busyness of our working environment. I'm fortunate enough to be very busy through work, but I've allowed that to impact on my routine. And what I've found, and I know other members have found this, is that because we're not having those club sessions which were locked into my diary, so I work my I plan my work diary around my training sessions in the evening. Because I'm not having those club sessions, I've been a little bit poor in my own sort of discipline, so to speak, and I've just stayed on work until sort of 7-8 o'clock at night, rather than getting out for a run at 6 o'clock. So certainly, I think a lot of people have had that struggle as COVID has pressured us into some of the darker places, so to speak. But we're lucky that we're there for each other, and that's the great thing with our sort of community style clubs. We're very supportive from our new beginner runners to our what I would class as our elite runners, and I know it's the same with the blue and white guys there from Bridgend. With that, obviously,
you mentioned it, Chris, Development Club of the Year in 2019, Inspirational Club of the Year 2020. As a club, you must be doing something. So what approach have you taken to guiding the club through COVID?
Well, I mean, we have a Development Club of the Year. We had some troubles, and we actually fought back from that, and I think that made our members very strong and picking up that award was as a result of building our way back up from that. And that set the bedrock, I think, for tackling this last year, because what we did was we made sure our social media relationship with our members was really strong. And as a result, when we came into COVID hitting, we already had a template, really, a bedrock ready for engaging with our members. You know, sort of, it was a really sort of positive thing to have that in place, so that as soon as training stopped, we were able to communicate with them on a daily basis and keep them going throughout the difficult year that it became, and that led on to everything that we did during the year. Do you want me to recall all the stuff that we've done through the year?
I don't think we'd have time, to be fair.
We went on to do it with virtual park runs, and we kept that going right from day one. It was something that we started with right away. Was virtual park run. Park run is something that is absolutely key to our members, and so many taking part that we launched that. That was probably the first thing we did. That first Saturday, we're going to do a park run regardless, and we're going to make it safe. We're going to make sure we don't do it at 9 o'clock. We don't all do it together. We don't all do it on a park run route. We do it any time during the day up till 8 o'clock at night. And lo and behold, people jumped in their hordes. And that relationship on social media meant that people could share their stories. It was important for us not to sort of create a Strava group so people could go on and we just acknowledge their times. It was a case of going on to social media, sharing their stories so that we could read those, see their pictures and see what they were doing, alongside them actually being recorded a time then for every Saturday going. And I mean, now that's been running now for 46 weeks. And we've had 2,362 park runs in that time, averaging, I think, 51 park runs every week, and we've had peaks of 89. We had our lowest ever attendance was 23 at the end of November, but we've gone up since then. So it's doing things like that. I mean, a whole host of challenges that we set. I counted that we'd done 68 independent virtual challenges, including the park runs, during 2020. We're now on 74. We're just keeping that going. One thing, I mean, to keep them going through COVID, initially what we did was suspended them needing to renew their membership, because financial hardship was something that was on, for many of our members, was something that was going to affect them, and so we gave them the grace until we returned training in August, and they had all the member benefits up until that point. We created a group of 12 members who volunteered to be on the end of a phone call or a message if people needed support. We had a fantastic idea from two of our members, Stephen James and Liz Sim, for a sunflower relay that ran for 155 days from the 29th of March until the 31st of August. The nickname was Sally the Sunflower, and it was said that Sally went back to school after the 31st of August. It was purposely done that day. We had this really long run from the top of the valley right the way down to the bottom, following the River Ogmore, which is in our name. And we had 93 members, 100 activities, and 850 miles covered in that. We ran a lockdown 5K, which I know Martin has done. They've done a series using OffTrack. We did 89 members took part in that internally. We had the Phantom Phoenix, somebody who appeared and sent me cryptic messages, and in those cryptic messages was a location where they'd left us painted stone with a phoenix on, and that sent our members all over the area trying to identify and locate those. And we had a quiz.
Sounds like a TV show, Chris.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Phantom. If you had the rights to that,
Phantom Phoenix. I mean, we had a music playlist going, which is still going now. I still listen to it. There's somebody told me the other day there's something crazy like it was 18 hours of music on there or something like that. It just grows all the time. Every time you listen to it, there's something new on there. Weekend challenges by the dozen, all sorts of things. I mean, if I go through these, it's probably going to take an hour for me to go through them. But we were doing weekend challenges virtually all the time. And we're still doing them now. We had an early bird challenge the other week where we encourage people to go and chase the sunrise and get photos of it and do such like. And we've continued our club championship. Some interesting ones in that. We had a downhill 1 mile, people to go as fast as they can downhill. And the Ross Barkley 5K, which is start your watch, run as fast as you can, stop it. And then you can, the elapsed time can be as long as you like, but the moving time is what gets recorded. So you find a nice bit of downhill, you sprint down it with your watch going, and then you stop it, go back up the hill, do it again, and you get your fastest time for 5K. And amazingly, some runners who run sort of 23 minutes recording 15, 16-minute parkrun times just by using the Ross Barkley method. Really good. We did the P24 challenge, a mile on the hour, every hour, 24 hours. 25 of us took part in that. And we've had loads of month-long challenges. Jane Bismeyer, one of our members, has managed a number of month-long challenges, one of which was the Run Around the World in July, where 96 members took part. And out of 106 teams in the UK, we came second, covering 8,136 miles in the month. Which is an average of 84 miles per member over the month, which is fantastic. All of these things add up to sort of coping with COVID. This is the way we did it. We just threw things at people, and we encouraged people to send in ideas and come up with challenges, and then we would sort of make sure they complied with the regulations, make sure we weren't encouraging anyone to run too far, overdo it, do all the things that they were encouraging us not to do, but still get out and get involved and keep in with the club. And I know I've given you rather a long answer there, and I probably, what I've written down here could have actually taken up another half hour, and I don't want to sort of take up all the time. Loads of people to thank in there and stuff, but it's just, I mean, that is what we've done to get through COVID, and I'd like to think it's doing all that has earned us the Inspirational Club of the Year, as well as the return to training, which I'm sure we'll talk about as well.
Yeah, I guess it makes me reflect on the comment I had to the National Awards panel when we were going through all the nominations. So Ogmore Phoenix came up, and I just sort of said unparalleled in my view, the amount that was done. Some of the stuff that you've mentioned there, it was just a level of engagement and a level of activity that was going on out there, which I think is really important, especially as we hopefully come out the other side of this. We'll reflect on some of the good stuff that we can take forward. Yeah. Martin, I guess likewise, run for all, and I've been at Welsh Athletics quite a long time, as you'll know. I've been through an amazing journey since they started, and certainly over recent years, the growth of the club, etc. So last year, OffTrack Club of the Year must have come a bit of a welcome surprise. But what sort of things have you guys been doing to sort of ensure that the members are safe and keep engaged?
It's interesting, isn't it? The kind invite for Chris and I to attend with you today, and there's some good similarities between the clubs, I think. And notwithstanding that we do engage with the club and the members very well outside of the normal club sessions pre-COVID. So things like social media to really keep people in contact. So yeah, very similar, that we managed to jump straight into various ways of making sure the engagement was still there, different competitions, some internal, some external. But as Chris mentioned, we're renowned for our summer series of 5Ks on Aberavon Front, and then the sort of 450 Santas one Saturday before Christmas. And for us we managed to maintain that thanks to you guys at Welsh Athletics and OffTrack. We still had the summer series of the 3 5Ks, but instead of the Santa run, we did a Creepy Christmas, which was a 10K in October and a 10K in December. And little buffs were sort of awarded for people who did all events. And we had people all over the country actually who were connected to the Run for All public site join in. And one of our members, bless her, is still stuck working in Asia. She was due back, so she's been competing over there, in her Run for All colours. So I think it's just trying to make sure in every way you can that the guys are engaged. In addition, we've done a lot of online stuff. I mean, there are the phrases, oh, are we getting zoomed out technically, because we're all doing a lot of this video stuff. But we've done sessions with physios, we've done sessions with nutrition experts, sports nutritionists, and sports psychologists about, well-being and not to beat yourself up if you've missed your training sessions and the like. So we've kept those going because we've normally had those seminars, once every 6 to 8 weeks as a club. So we've moved those online. Of course, we were all desperate as we all came out of lockdown 1 to get back to training. And again, we sat on the various athletic sessions. We put the team together with a COVID officer who, Joe Mather, has done an amazing job for us. Alex Tovey is sort of the sort of coaching coordinator. And we very quickly, I think by middle of August, we were back to our 3 regular club sessions a week. Yes, they looked a little bit different, but the engagement was fantastic. Eventbrite helped with track and trace. It even helped us. Sadly, the increased costs we suffered from the track sessions for the speed work on a Monday. But, it was brilliant to feel that the members really wanted to re-engage as quickly as possible. And I think most of us missed that social aspect of the running. To that end, actually, John Jarvis, our male welfare officer, set up a Friday night, I'm going to call it a comedy chat group, because he hosts it so well. And it's just, come on, have a drink and have a chuckle. And he creates a little bit of a storytelling event. And that, again, that's nothing to do with actually training or any guidance from the physio or whatever. It's just friends having a laugh and a joke and keeping that contact. And that's what we've tried to maintain, really. That's, hopefully we're not too far from being able to get back out. The good news, obviously, we're now able to meet with one person and train is a great start. So hopefully we can start edging soon once the governments that be feel that it's comfortable to do that, because we're all missing that. So that's what we're looking forward to, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree with that from a training perspective. Absolutely right, Mark. I mean, the return to training was long overdue, wasn't it? I mean, I absolutely understand why we had to wait as long as we did, but when we did, getting it right, and like you said, putting those COVID working groups in place and making sure that we got the right ratio of leaders. And I mean, we conferred on that. I dropped you a line, and we had various conversations about that. Just to sort of make sure that we were singing off the same hymn sheet. We sort of we formulate these ideas independently, and then you think, well, I need that reassurance, that this is the right thing to do. But yeah, training was marvelous. I think obviously clearly a successful run for all, and it was a success for us as well too. Safe and lots of sessions. We were delighted.
Yeah, I think touching on that, I think we were as a governing body, we were sort of delighted the way clubs had responded, clubs and groups across Wales. Sort of, and the key message from us to pretty much everyone who would listen was, we can do it in a safe way. We've proven we can do it in a safe way in larger numbers. So hopefully we get back to that. At some point.
It does as well. I mean, the question earlier about the burden of chair, sort of it came in. The burden then fell on the committee to, I know that this was being highly praised by yourselves at Welsh Athletics. The fact that all these clubs who are full of volunteers are now having to put paperwork and spend time doing these things and feel the responsibility as well. This is real now. This is not something that you can sort of have a dabble at. This is people's lives that you're actually sort of are on the line here. So getting it right and making sure that all the procedures that you put in place are safe and that all your documentation is in place was something that none of us ever thought we would need to do to this extent. And it suddenly, the burden on the committee of the club and the welfare officers and such like suddenly grows. And you need to be able to respond to that. You need to be able to actually, in order to deliver it safely and deliver sufficient numbers, and coaches and leaders as well, they're right in the middle of it. They're delivering the sessions. They're the ones who ultimately, if something goes wrong, they're there in the center of it, and I think we took the same approach ourselves in Run for All, 1 to 6 leader to runner ratio. We allowed 2 and 12 at a session. So we had 2 leaders. If one was dealing with a situation, the other could safely take the rest of them away from it, to not need it to people stood over, all things like that, considering things like that, and then conferring on those things, I think was important to have in place. And it really did increase the burden and the workload. But we were more than happy to meet the call.
Absolutely. It's an interesting point, isn't it? And around the membership and how some of that burden, some of those responsibilities are shared. I just want to come back to something you mentioned there, Martin, previously, and if I'm reading it right, and I do speak to other clubs across Wales, and clubs are saying, I actually, throughout this period, found out more about my members than we ever did do before. This is the weird positive out of this is saying that actually we're a little bit closer to our membership. We've discovered people in our club that we didn't know were there. We discovered skill sets that weren't there. We've discovered people that step up, take responsibility. Has that been the case for Run for All?
To a degree, I'd like to think we were quite deeply engaged and were aware of people's ability. But certainly, I mean, Chris refers to it, our coaching team have been exemplary. And what was also exciting, and again, thanks to you guys at the governing body, we managed to push, and I think it was 4 through the last physical coaching session for run leaders. And I think we've done 3 through the new virtual course. So we've got that real desire for members to help, because we were obviously limited. A Wednesday night group hill run, we would get in 90 people on a Wednesday night in various ability groups pre-COVID. To manage that similar demand, we just didn't have the numbers of leaders. So it was great that members wanted to come forward, those who were experienced enough to actually volunteer, you guys to put them through the course and get them qualified. So that meant that when we were running again, we knocked it right down, and at most of the time we were running 1 to 8 at the maximum towards the end, because we wanted to be really strict, which meant sometimes of an equal ability group, we were sending a group out, say at 6 o'clock and another one at 6:15. So they were staggered as per obviously the guidelines. So again, we're very fortunate that a lot of people were stepping up, and people were coming up with ideas, and we were sharing it on social media. And then Bush, that would be the club challenge for say that month. So I think it's been a good opportunity, but we're social animals, aren't we, humans? And I think desperately we do miss that social connection, because whilst we train hard and we try to race hard, we also like to drink quite hard, and we're missing that aspect of it a little bit.
Yeah, there's definitely that piece in there, isn't there, around, and I think you referred to it earlier, around it's great that we can meet one other person now, because it's that social interaction and that voice, that person that you can engage with and interact with, I think is really important. I think, Chris, we've spoken in the past, and I think the ethos and the philosophy of Ogmore Phoenix has always been to be more than a club. It's not just about turning up and running and going home. There's a real community feel to it. Do you think that's been even more important over the last 12 months?
Absolutely, 100%. I think that you've got to have that extra. It's not just about the running, and when you lose that social side of it, you've got to do other things. You've got to, taking photos, and things like that. Set challenges around different things that, getting them to go off and take photos with street signs and spell out Ogmore Phoenix runners, and make a little travel video of your local area, or a set of photos that sort of, selling different parts of the area. Yes, they get a run in while they're on the way, but they might just go and walk it or whatever. They might not even go anywhere. They might search the pictures out, but what you're doing is you're engaging with them. And I think it's absolutely right what Martin just said, that, we already had a lot of these things in place. The members were all, we felt we already engaged with the members a lot anyway, you know, high numbers at things and at anything that we ran. And so I think that, you know, you've already got that off, you know, you've got that in your bag, in the bag already, you know, sort of that connection with them. So, but you do need to think outside the box. I think it's been absolutely imperative to have things other than the sport. You know, you need these other things. We another photo competition in autumn to capture colours of autumn on photographs and send those in. I mean, you know, everybody's got phones these days, haven't they? So that's another thing that you can do. And a lot of our competitions and challenges were set up around the running being incidental to what they were going off to try and achieve. And I think that was absolutely key. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was a bit worried when you mentioned photos there, Chris, because I remember one New Year's Day that Ogmore Phoenix were having a photo, and a member of another club, I can't think who, happened to try to photobomb it and bumped into one of your members. Do you recall that?
I do recall that, the Prince of Wales run on New Year's Day.
On New Year's Day, indeed,
yeah,
indeed.
Ran by our very good friends at Cornelly Striders. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that was. But I mean, that's all part of the fun, isn't it? That, you know, we have this great relationship, and just you know, advertising that this is not. Yes, we're a club. We're a great we're a great internal community within ourselves. But the running community has really come together in this crisis. You know, and not just reaching out to other clubs, but also being involved with other clubs. I mean, Cornelly down the road from us, they have a virtual cafe every Saturday morning, and I think there's as many of other members of other clubs take a photograph with your cup of coffee in the morning and share it on their page, and they put a collage together of all those, and it's been involved in things like that aren't the running. There's nothing to do with running. It doesn't have to be after or before a run. It's just still engaging with friends from the running community, and stories like that coming up time and time again. You know, I mean, we won't ever forget that, will we, Martin? But
no, that was very, very badly judged by me.
No, it was funny though. But yeah, go on.
I think we're talking about a family here, though, aren't we?
Yes.
I see that with Ogmore when we meet up with you guys, and definitely within Run for All. You know, we're there to run and enjoy it and train, but we're one big family.
Yeah.
And I think that's one key thing about this. You know, we care for one another, and that just enthuses everybody. And I think you alluded to it previously when, you know, the Snowdonia Marathon's now become quite an icon in Welsh road running, and both of our clubs attend in good numbers and almost as many support as they do that sort of race it. And
yeah.
You know, we're all there supporting one another, proud of our black and yellow and black and yellow and white and blue there or whatever. But we also care about each other's members, and we're there to cheer each other on. And I think that's the great thing about this. I think that's what we do so well as two good clubs.
Yeah. I think you two obviously got a great relationship, and the clubs are thriving and sort of benefiting from your leadership. How important is it to learn from other clubs and see what other clubs are doing, try and replicate, ask those questions, have that engagement? Because we do have clubs that sometimes operate in silos, and something we're trying to encourage is that nothing's new. Go and ask the club down the road. How important is that?
It's as much asking as advertising as well. I think when you've done something and you feel it's worth sharing, then share. You know, I mean, like I said a minute ago, definitely for reassurance. It's been a really difficult year, and I think it's been absolutely imperative. I've reached out to so many clubs, Martin, on a regular basis. All the clubs in Bridgend have a great relationship anyway, so as with the Bridgend County Running League, so we all talk to each other on a weekly basis, and we still have monthly meetings between the clubs. But further afield as well, I've reached out to clubs all over Wales and further afield, people I know in other clubs. But it's not just asking, it's sharing as well. It's actually not being insular and saying, oh, we're doing this, and then sort of saying, look at what we've done. It's a case of saying, look at what we're doing now. And I've had people contact me and say, is it all right if we do that? It's fine, crack on. Grab the idea and run with it. Do your own thing. But that's how the sport develops, by sharing. You know, it's sharing knowledge, sharing resources, sharing. I mean, we do it all the time. I think if you engage with regional councils, yourself as the national governing body, other clubs, then you will get the return, because you sharing inherently means that those people will come back to you when they've got something to offer.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely imperative to me to developing a club. Is that relationship that you build with the rest of the running community and the whole of the sport.
That's a great point, I think. And we're very fortunate. We were much the same as Chris said. He and I communicate very, very regularly. We're also very fortunate that Run for All, albeit only 9 years old, have a debt of gratitude to Port Talbot Harriers. I think they're 100 years old this year, and it's just fantastic when you see that type of history there. And they were the ones who stood behind us as a fledgling club at the beginning, and really helped us with coaching and building the club. And we still have that great bit of friendship, but also banter and rivalry, actually to the degree that just before Christmas, our three clubs got together and had a little competitive relay weekend. And again, by communicating locally like that, it was engaging, the members got out, and we just all had a great weekend. And sadly, we didn't win, but never mind. Everybody got talking, and it was brilliant. And I think that's key. If we keep that communication at this level, it makes a massive difference, I think, for all.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's something I've reflected on, and I think for me to say I'm proud about is probably the wrong word, but the way clubs have responded since end of March last year, when you see the amount of activity that's going on at clubs across Wales, has been really phenomenal. And it's sort of, we did it throughout the summer. The Support Your Club program just highlight all of the activity that was going on, all the interaction, all the different ways clubs were thinking about. And it shouldn't have been a surprise, but admittedly, it was a surprise, just how adaptable and how inventive people were, and it was kind of like really refreshing to see that approach to everything. So it was something that, like I say, proud is probably the wrong word. It's something that I was really pleased with, the way clubs responded.
And I mean, who wouldn't want to? I mean, you think from our perspective as chair, we've talked about the weight, the burden, the heavy load, and the sharing, and the community coming together, and all the rest of it. But just to stand there in that position of authority and look at what the club is doing, and look at people going on and choosing to share their activities. I mean, that's one thing we get. When we were training, people who couldn't make the training sessions were going out and coming back and posting their photos and saying, I went out and did that session. Because we've all the way through, we've advertised on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and a Sunday. We've advertised what the session would have been that day. Share your photos below. And there's people going out and saying, look, I've been out and done my 4 miler, but I could only go in the morning. So here's my photo and here's my activity. Oh, it was hard today. And, and people can then cheer them on like they would have done in a training session. And so who wouldn't want to push, promote, and build the club to a point where you have all these members who are actually doing it? And you're seeing this go on, and you're thinking, for us, it is an immense sense of pride in the fact that that is actually, a successful sort of, entity that's moving forward, a family, a community that's built from all the effort that goes in, and it makes it all worthwhile. And I mean, why would you not want to nurture that and share it with the world and build, something even bigger that spreads further than just our club or just our locale, and, nationally, internationally? Why not? Get it seen everywhere. It's something to be incredibly proud of, I think.
Absolutely. With just talk about you two for a minute. We'll start with you, Martin. What's been your proudest moment in the sport?
That's difficult, I suppose, only because I class myself as very much a sort of community amateur runner, and when I see some of the achievements of guys, representing the country, it makes me realise that actually we challenge ourselves. And I've never really been a runner. I trained for the military. I ran in the military to stay fit. And the longest I'd ever run was 8 miles until I joined Run for All. And now I've done 3 Snowdon marathons. And to me, to actually personally be a marathoner, I'm really, really chuffed with. I don't have the desire yet to go on to be an ultra marathoner. I've got to go back and conquer Snowdon a little bit better. I think beyond that, though, I'm also very proud to have been part of such a family like Run for All is. You know, in our short life to have picked up 2 Welsh Athletics Awards, I think that's fantastic to sort of have the recognition for everything we've done as a club and our local community to sort of help promote people's health and well-being. So for me, certainly chair this year, but I was on committee when we won the previous award. You know, that's a proud thing, and you used the word yourself, Chris, from a Welsh athletics point of view. You know, we all work hard at this, we all enjoy it. So, you know, it's nice to feel proud of our achievements. And so that's my background.
What about you, Chris? Lots of medals in the background then. What's the one what's your favourite?
The favourite individual medal, I think, is the Snowdonia Trail Ultra that went to that climbed to the summit at mile 29. That I don't think that's indelibly printed on my brain. That is, it was a warm day. Ended up being nauseous at the bottom of Penna Pass, looking up the pig track and thinking, I've got to climb that 3,000 feet now, having already run 29 miles. I came round the corner into the basin on the pig track where you can see the peak and you can see the path that goes round and up, and that's the path you've got to climb. And I think this breath of wind just came, and I just stood there with my arms open, and it sort of breathed life back into me. It's one of those moments that just sort of touches you, and it's like, I don't think I'll ever forget that moment, you know. But there's just so many. There are, and that's not just sort of saying there's so many from running. It has to be crowned by all the positive, proud moments that have come from being chair of this club. And I mean, I've been chair since May 2017, and I think I've hit some incredible lows, as we well know from the history of our club, to some incredible highs, and being honoured with Volunteer of the Year in 2018, Development Club of the Year for the club in 2019, and then Inspirational Club of the Year in 2020 are, like Martin said, they're just acknowledgement. It's a doff of the cap for all the hard work and your life. You put your life into this. It really is a lot of work. It's a lot of heart, a lot of soul goes into it, a lot of energy goes into it. And I think when you give that amount of yourself to something, to just have a little bit of acknowledgement that has taken place, but it's pride. You know, I did the TED Talk a year ago, and I talked about building a community in running, and in that, very difficult thing to stop getting emotional over, because it does stir up such emotions, actually seeing people achieve things that, like Martin said, I mean, you know, he said, you know, I ran 8 miles. I did a Snowdonia marathon. I'm really proud of that. I really do believe that it's all relative. And somebody who runs a 5K, and you watch that for the first time, them running the 5K. I've had people burst into tears on me. I've paced people. I remember pacing the Cardiff 10K to an hour, and we came in at 59:54, and I got so many hugs. There was tears. There was, you know, people being sick on the line, you know, and all the emotions and physical aspect and all the rest of it. It just to see that emotion at that one point is, I think it's magic. And to be chair of a club where there are 300 members all tackling their own level of achievements and seeing them achieve those or strive for them is just, I mean, that's wonderful. You can't match that with anything else, I don't think. And I think for me, the proudest thing is being chair of this club.
It's amazing, isn't it? When you just referencing there, people hugging and bursting into emotion. Remember when that was a thing? Remember that?
I know.
Well, telling the kids about this in the future. Go, yeah, you used to be able to touch people, and you didn't have to.
You see photos, don't you? And you say, no, that's not right. You know, oh, it's all right. It's from a year ago. You know, it's like, it just, yes. Yeah, I miss it. I miss that.
Yeah. But what's next? What are we looking forward to for the rest of 2021? Martin, I'll start with you.
Well, I think it's more of the same, sadly, on the one hand, because you know, the damage that COVID's doing at the moment still isn't going to go away in the short term. I think we've got to be realistic about that. And only today, one of the pinnacle events in the Welsh athletics calendar, I see, sadly, in terms of the Welsh Castles relay, very sadly, it's had to be knocked on the head. We've been fortunate for the last few years, for example, to have a couple of teams in that. And the guys have just loved the weekend. So I think we as a club have planned the first 6 months, still obviously virtual. Chris referred to their club championship. So we've done the same. Our club championships remaining in place. We've moved our presentation night online, and that's going to be in a couple of weeks' time, having deferred from November, with the vain hope back in September last year that we would be all back to partying by February, which obviously how incorrect we were. So I think from our perspective, it's trying to continue the rest of this year. A bit how we've sort of finished 2020, with a view that, we got a couple of ideas up our sleeves as a committee of things that hopefully, if it's similar, that when we come out of lockdown and we can start training again, to really re-engage the guys physically. And once we've got those meat on the bones, as Chris was saying, no doubt we'll be sharing those, if any, because it might be of interest to others.
Yeah.
But furthermore than that, we've just done our first survey of the membership, and we've had a good response back. And we then set up a Zoom call where our development officer fed back the sort of summary to the members and what we plan to do in this 12 months for the existing members. And I'm now working on a sort of 3 to 5 year plan for the club. So we've got some future direction of what we want to achieve as a unit. And, the key thing is to try and increase participation of the sport in our local area around Neath.
Yeah, massively important. I think it's one thing that we'd advocate is that surveying of the membership, and then once you've done that, act on it, because that can only, you can bring in the members what they want, and some of the changes, some of the tweaks that they might need is massively important. And I think this is sort of, we've got a bit of time whilst we're not all physically meeting and doing stuff. We've got a bit of time where we can maybe focus on a couple of those things. Chris, what about you? 2021, glass half full. We're going to be, we'll be back training soon. Hopefully Cardiff 10K.
Cardiff 10K. Well, from a club perspective, I mean, much the same as Martin. I think we're all thinking along the same lines. We're it's for the time being, it's all virtual. We carry on with our virtual challenges that we've been doing, and our wonderful results team cataloguing virtual park runs going forward. Pippa Clark and Gareth Jenkins, who've been absolutely fantastic over the last year, no doubt will carry on sort of setting us, monitoring virtual park runs and the such like for the next couple of months. But I mean, it's just that return to events. We want that return to events. And yes, training probably will return in the same way as it has done. But we're all hankering after events coming back. I think that's the thing. But I think it's much the same as Martin. I mean, we survey our members on a fairly regular basis, perhaps a annual basis for training to see where and to ask them what they want from the club, what they gain from the club, and those sort of basic things. And I think it's really interesting what Martin said about building development plans, long-term development plans for the future. I like this idea that Sven always said at the club's conference: think about one thing to stop doing, one thing to do better, and one thing to stop doing, one thing to keep doing, and one thing to do better. And keep that going. Of just look sort of find simple things to move forward and try and develop the club into the future. And there are ongoing discussions.
Yeah, no, super important. Gents, I could keep this going all afternoon, but our media team will slap me on the wrist if we go past the 2 hour mark. So, I just want to say a massive thank you for today, and your time, and not only what you've contributed today, but what you've contributed in the past, and continue to contribute. It's obviously making a massive difference to club athletics across Wales. The amount of interaction you've got with each other, with other clubs, is massively helping the sport moving forward. So I just want to say a massive thank you on our behalf.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I shall leave you to have your evening in peace. Go grab a beer, I think is the,
That sounds good.
Oh, that does sound good.
Guys, thanks very much.
Cheers, Chris.
Cheers, Chris.